everyone. If you can hear me, throw something in the chat, maybe like a right on, I can hear you, what's up, something like that. I am a huge fan of participation. And even though this is a webinar, I still want to hear from you. Hi, Heather. Thanks for saying hello. So here's what I want to do to get us sort of warmed up. How many of you would say, yes, I have seen, worked with, know about CenarioVR? Like, go ahead and let me know in the chat. How do you know about it? Have you heard about it? Is this your first time type of thing? Never heard of it. Some, no. Okay, good. We got a little mixed bag. Excellent. You guys doing a great job participating, by the way. Keep that up. Wonderful. So I'm hoping that by the end of the session today, you will leave with at least one really good idea of how you could use CenarioVR to help you onboard in a hybrid workplace. And so that's kind of where we're going to start, right? So this session is all about onboarding in a hybrid workplace with CenarioVR. So just as a way of introduction, my name is Betty Danowitz. You may know me as If You Ask Betty. If you're a fan of podcasts, check out the If You Ask Betty podcast. We actually do have an episode with John Blackman, who is the, father of CenarioVR. So definitely check out that episode, as well as lots of other episodes from folks within the learning and development industry about all different types of development topics. I've been in learning and development for 18 years. And my current day job that I love so much is working for the Ken Blanchard Company. So I work for a leadership development company. And then on the side, in other areas like conferences and podcasts, you'll know me as If You Ask Betty. I also like to spend a lot of time talking about augmented reality and virtual reality, really anything that can help you think differently about the way that you design your learning solutions. So that's a little bit about me. What I'd like to do is move into talking about the idea of a hybrid workplace. So who can tell me, those of you who have your fingers at the ready on the chat, what is a hybrid workplace anyways? Like, this seems like a new word that we like to throw around. How would you define it? Let's see what you have in the chat. What is a hybrid workplace? David says online and in person, both online and a physical place, combination, blend of on-site and remote. Some work remotely while others, yes, absolutely. I would totally agree. It is some level of combination of in-office and remote working. So some folks work 100% remote, or they may work 100% in the office, or maybe they work partially in the office and partially remote. So let me ask you, do you work in a current hybrid workplace? Are you 100% remote? Are you 100% in the office? How does that work for you in your workplace right now? We got yes on a couple hybrids, all remote. Okay. Hybrid coming July 2022. 100 remote now, moving to hybrid. Okay. Good. Others in the office. So there's definitely this overarching move towards hybrid workplace. And if you don't work in a hybrid workplace, in that you are 100% remote or 100% in the office, there's a really good chance that somebody else that works alongside you is considered hybrid, either 100% remote or partially in the office and in remote. So given that, this is actually new to most organizations, the idea of a hybrid workplace. Not all, but most. This is a new concept. Not that they haven't heard of it before, but the willingness to try it was low previous to the pandemic. It also challenges sort of our deeply ingrained notions of what does work look like. So I love the picture of this chick here. She is living her best life in her pajama pants, funky socks, and her work shirt. Does anybody feel like seen? Do anybody feel seen after you saw this picture? Like, I think Richard feels seen. I think he's like, yep, that's me right now. Yeah, exactly. Right. Definitely. I will tell you, I am wearing, work clothes. I'm wearing leggings though. Not going to lie. I'm wearing leggings and shoes are not happening. Right. Definitely not happening for me. So a hybrid workplace, it challenges sort of that deep ingrained notion of what does work look like. And most importantly, the biggest thing to keep in mind is that hybrid changes things. It does. Working hybrid now changes things. What would you say are some things that change because we're now working hybrid? Go ahead and throw those in the chat. I know one thing we talked about is how we dress for work, right? It's for some people, I'm just going to say it, hygiene changes, okay? Hygiene has changed. It's not quite the same as it used to be. Couple other things. Bill says, yes, distance bias and recency bias. We have to find creative ways to engage learners. Why do you think that is, Denise? I'd love for you to follow up with that. Why does our ability to get them engaged change now that they're hybrid? Marcella says socialization, coffee breaks, discussion, snacking, lunchtime, all that stuff is done alone now. Yeah. More electronic software to use, better balance with personal life. It's very easy to feel isolated. You're correct. It can be hard. Yes, here's Denise's answer. It can be hard to balance engagement with remote and in person. It can, because seems to be so many other distractions, right? And like JJ says, there's more technical difficulties. In addition to that, if we're hiring someone to be 100% remote, does it make sense for them to have to come into the office for the first week? I mean, if you're being hired to be 100% remote, how would you feel if they said, but we need you to fly to Houston and come in for a week? I mean, in some cases, you might be excited, right? Hey, we get to go see other people. That's fantastic. But it kind of makes you wonder, am I going to be able to stay remote? It kind of gives that uneasy feeling. And the reason why is because, like I said before, we're so ingrained to do things a certain way. So, for example, when it comes to onboarding or bringing on a new employee, right? Before hybrid, it may have worked like this, like in person. Okay, just go with me. Let me know if you agree with this. Maybe around 7:55, you as a new employee arrive at the home office. You're welcomed by reception or recruiting, and they take you to a conference room or a training room. Sound right so far? Yeah. Maybe around 8 a.m., you start new hire orientation. So there's a facilitator or someone from HR that kind of goes through forms that you need to complete, any decisions you need to make about healthcare. And then sometimes they even teach you a little bit about the org's history, right? Like I think that's typical new hire orientation. And then maybe around lunchtime, you get a chance to meet your manager, right? That'd be great. You get to have lunch with your manager, talk about your role, talk about expectations, maybe what your first assignments are going to be. And at this point, as a new hire, you're still excited. You got your suit on. You fluffed up your hair. Everything's great, right? Around 2:00, you actually get to see your workspace. You get to find where it is, orient yourself or other workspaces. Where's the restroom? Where's the break room? And then finally, you get to meet your team, right? So meet and greet those that you'll be working alongside, learn about what is their role in the team. So let me ask you this. In your experience, before we went to hybrid, when we were working in the office, does this look and feel a lot like what maybe day one onboarding might be for you at your company? I'll give you a second to answer that in the chat. More or less, right? More or less, this is pretty close. Maybe it's day 2 that you actually get to see your workplace, but nevertheless, depending on how much content you're going through, this is pretty close, right? And Joy said hers was remote during the pandemic. So and Denise says, oh, don't forget all the online learning, right? Absolutely, you're absolutely right. This is sort of like a high-level snapshot of what your first day is like. So when it comes to actually having a hybrid workplace, I think maybe we need to rethink how this works, right? So rather than having our employees that are going to be remote come into the office to go through this process, how can we rethink their onboarding so that it is hybrid like they are? And so that's kind of some of the questions that I think we have to think through. So one of them is, hey, how can we keep some of those core elements, whether they're onboarding in person or remotely, right? Because Joy said she onboarded remotely. Very different experience than onboarding in person. It feels different. It smells different. It looks different. It just is very different. I know when I started with Blanchard, I started remotely during the pandemic. And my first day, my boss was like, we'll meet at like 9:00. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want me to do for what am I supposed to do? Well, just set up your computer, get acclimated. I was like, wow, this is very different. Like I'm used to you show up and we're going to make you do all these things, right? So it's a very different experience. But how can we keep some of those core elements? How can we create an experience that feels personalized, even though we're not in person, right? How can we sort of replicate the fun of a shiny new place to work in the employee's own workspace? I was telling Stephanie before we got on, I'm kind of glad you can't see my desk. There are so many Post-its. It's like the Post-it factory just blew up on my desk, right? So it's not shiny and new, but how can we make it feel that way? And then how can we give people a sense of belonging without that in-person human interaction? Those are all things that we kind of have to keep in mind. Heather, I'm so glad you're joining me in my Post-it explosion. I love Post-its. I will never, it's fine. Like, it's just a mess. So Amber has a good idea. Scavenger hunt. I agree. I love scavenger hunts. And I think what you're going to find is what I'm going to sort of talk through with CenarioVR could definitely fit in beautifully with a scavenger hunt. But before we get there, I want to ask you, how would you redesign sort of that first day experience in order for it to fit a hybrid workplace? What would that new journey look like for you? And I'll let you put some of those answers in the chat here. What would that look like? How could you redesign the journey? There's those Post-its right there, so that it fits for a hybrid team as well. Okay, lots of Zoom, maybe breakout rooms, welcome videos, documents, an online course to review, breakout rooms to meet those you may engage with, welcome videos, I'm loving it. Yep. So I'm hearing a blended theme, right? So there's definitely, it's not just one thing. Like previously we would come in, it was one thing, it was in-person instructor-led training or, a guided training, but this is more, let's blend a few things. A VR tour of the office. Marcella, you know where I'm going. More structure, lots of meetings, buddy system, 360 video virtual tour, mixture of activities, absolutely. Branching scenarios. You guys are like, we are in sync, right? And now you're all singing in sync. You're welcome. But yes, so we are totally in sync with this. So to redesign it, we've got to create sort of this blended experience that brings in some of the virtual world along with potentially things that we would normally do in person. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about is building a VR onboarding experience with CenarioVR, and what are the pieces and parts that you need to think about as you do that. And this is, I'm suggesting more than just a tour, though I love a tour. I think that's the start of it. I think there's more that you can do with this. And so that's what we're going to kind of going to go through. And so like the key to this is to create something that is awesome. All right. Anybody else into creating awesome things? Just me? I mean, I don't like boring training. I spent the good portion of my career doing training for banks and insurance. Can you see my eye twitching? Like, it was hard sometimes to make it awesome and exciting. No, Denise, it's not exciting. This is the opposite of what you're saying. Yeah. It's sometimes that's hard to do, but what I really like about CenarioVR, what I really like about this idea of creating a VR onboarding experience is that it is something awesome, no matter what you're onboarding people to. So would you like to see the experience? Anybody interested in that? Yeah. Okay. Good. Let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. I am. And somebody give me a thumbs up if you can see my CenarioVR experience. Oh, Amber, your eyes are that's so funny. Okay. Here's what I want to tell you about this. I made a quick prototype. Okay. So everybody, wherever you are, I want you to say quick prototype, because this is not in any way extensive, comprehensive for the things that you would, the type of thing that you would build, but it's a really good start to give you an idea of what are some of the functions inside CenarioVR that can help you onboard virtually. So what I'm going to do, you should be able to hear some sound. I'm going to go ahead and get started on this experience right here. So it says, hey, welcome to your new job. Time to report for day one. Select Tina to let her know you are here, and she will direct you where to go. Where's Tina? There she is right there, and see how her name is hovered above her. That's great. I know exactly what to do. I'm going to click here. Tina says, great to meet you. My name is Tina, and I can't wait for you to get started. First, we're going to head this way to meet Samantha. So I'm going to click on Tina, and oh, that's pretty cool. So here's Samantha. Look, there's her name at the top. And here's a question. Welcome to your new office. I'm Samantha, your HR representative. Would you like to check out your new workspace first or go straight to the training room? What do you think? What would you choose, A or B? A. Everybody's saying A. Okay, but I want you to see the training room, so I'm going to choose B. Take me to training. Oh, hey, look, it's Alexa. Alexa is our trainer. So if I click on Alexa, she says, hey, welcome to your first day. My name is Alexa, and I'll be your facilitator for new hire orientation. Pick a seat, and we can get started. I'm going to pick this seat, and I'm going to click here. And so begins a video that I can now watch as the new hire. They're just placeholder videos. You can also choose this one. And then when I'm all done, I click on Alexa to go on out of the training room. So here's my desk. Here's some office equipment for me. Oh, here's an office issued laptop and a cell phone for work-related communication assignments. Or maybe this says, by now you should have received your office issued laptop. Click here to visit IT if you have questions, right? Options. And then, if you don't want to do everything reading, you could add one more dimension, and that is voiceover.
When you are ready to see the rest of the office, just tap me on the shoulder.
You can tap Marion on the shoulder just like you would if you were there, and she'll take you to the rest of the office. So here I can do a tour. Now I can grab and move this around. I don't have to just follow the arrows, but the arrows make sure I know where I'm going.
Hi, my name is Ches. We have an excellent rec room to help get through any mental blocks or just chill out for a bit during the day. Want to play some pool?
Chaz's pants aren't work appropriate. Hey, this is a startup. He can do what he wants. Yeah, so here, you finished the demo. Now you have a better idea of what CenarioVR can do. So this is a short demo of what you can do. And quite frankly, this isn't even everything. You can add in variables and create scoring so that it's actually like a game. If you wanted to gamify it. What I wanted to do was just sort of show you some of the basic things that you can do with this experience. So I'll pause for a second. Do you have any questions? And you can either put them in the Q&A or the chat about what you saw, or is there anything specifically that you'd like to see again? Give you just a second to think about that. So Bill says, are you shooting 360 images or is that built in a modeling app? These images actually came from the eLearning Brothers asset library. I would highly recommend, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, that you shoot your own images with the 360 camera. We're going to talk about that shortly. I wonder if you're restricted in time for like after 30 minutes, the user might have a headache. So Marcella, the great news is that with CenarioVR, you can actually do it on your desktop, much like you're seeing here. So if you do have a longer experience, I would say longer than 10 minutes, I would recommend that they go through it on their desktop versus a headset. I know for me, when I wear the headset over my glasses, I get eye strain after about 10 minutes. So I think it's an option that you could do both. Can you create the scenario in 360 video? You can, but I will tell you that 360 video is not as easy to work with. You may find that you get frustrated because it's a video and it's in a constant loop. So you may like images better. What's the advantage of VR in this scenario over self-directed CBT? What a great question, Jim. I'm going to ask if anybody else here has a thought as to what the advantage of VR is before I tell you mine. So we're going to hold on to that and see. Bill says, if the learner is viewing on a tablet or phone, does it support the use of the device's gyro to move around in the space, or do you have to drag it with your finger? I'd have to test it, but my thought is that you have to move it with your finger. I don't know if there's somebody else on the line that knows a different answer.
I'm pretty sure, Betty, that if you do it in CenarioVR, you would move it with your finger on your phone.
Yep, thank you. Yes, Heather's correct. So the question was, what's the difference between this and a CBT? It's much more immersive this way, and you can actually customize it so that when that remote employee does actually come into the office, they can see exactly what they saw in the experience. And I'll tell you, if you do it on the desktop or they put it in the headset, either way, both of those are going to bring them into the world of your office in a different way than pictures on a CBT would. It's actually going to make them feel more immersed and as if they've been there before. The best test is when they come in, if they know where the bathroom is, because your tour already told them. All right, so great questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to go ahead and keep on cruising here because I want to give you some information on how to actually make this happen. So how to make it happen. First of all, you have to storyboard the experience. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about storyboarding in just a second. Gather your assets, build that CenarioVR experience, and then make sure that you're keeping your onboarding blended. And just watch this blender just for a second, because this makes me happy. Go ahead, laugh with me. So fun. It's the little things that make us happy, right? So storyboard the experience, gather your assets, build the scenario experience, and then keep it blended. So let's talk a little bit about storyboarding first. I am a huge fan of Milanote. Anybody else use Milanote? This is a picture, an example of a storyboard that I've used many times in Milanote. Milanote is much like Mural or Miro. So these are collaboration softwares that you can go in and basically it's much like using Post-its on a whiteboard, but you can do this electronically. And then you can add, if you'll notice, there's like some editors right here. You can add in collaborators. Milanote, I put it in the chat for you. You get, I think it's something like 30 cards for free. So you can go in and practice and try. You can do very similar things on Mural and Miro. I know they all kind of sound the same, but I would highly recommend this. You can also do this the old-fashioned way with Post-it notes. I have seen it done where people take a legal size piece of paper. You guys remember, well, first of all, you remember paper, right? Okay. And like there's letter size and then there's legal size. Take a legal size piece of paper and draw a grid and storyboard it that way. Whatever works for you is what you want to do. And when we talk about storyboarding the experience, I want you to consider a couple of things. First of all, you want to think about what should it sound like, what should it look like, and what should it feel like for them. And so this is where there's a big difference between a CBT and a VR experience, because you're able to go in and record background noise. You're able to record, chatter in the background. What should it look like? What should it feel like? Should people feel welcomed? Should it feel like they have the ability to go anywhere they need to? Those types of things. So what should it sound like, look like, feel like? And then also, what do they need to know before? So what's the onboarding to get them into this? And I'll tell you, it's pretty easy with CenarioVR. They just need to click a link. So that's pretty easy. What do you want them to learn during the experience? And then what do they need to be able to do after the experience? So like I said, if you wanted, you could grab that legal size piece of paper, draw a grid like you see on this slide, and just fill in the boxes. What should it sound like, look like, feel like, know before, learn during, be able to do after. Just very simple storyboarding. Some of you may do more detailed storyboarding, and that is totally fine. Do what works for you. I just wanted to offer a couple of options here as you're kind of storyboarding the whole story of the VR experience. Then once you have that down, you want to start gathering your assets. And this is where I think probably people have a lot of questions, right? So first and foremost, take your own 360 photos, and people images. Pretty much everything you see here came from the eLearning Brothers asset library, including the people images. But I would highly recommend that you take images of the people that actually work there so that they can see their boss or the CEO. I mean, in the example that we did, I imagine that Chaz is the CEO with his ripped jeans, right? So, if you wanted to take a couple of images of your pictures or of your CEO, that'd be great to bring them in there. And then record that voiceover, right? So the example had some robot voices, but I bet your voice is great. So you could record your voice welcoming them in and get that live ambiance. Go into the office when there seems to be a lot of chatter and try to just record the chatter. And you can put that in real lightly underneath so that it feels like they're actually in the office. And then I would say, be overly detailed, right? So you're bringing in your assets, you're bringing in your icons, be overly detailed. Make sure that it looks and feels and sounds like your office does so that folks can really get that experience. You'll notice in one of the scenes, there's the computer and the phone. Maybe part of the details, you could hire Gilbert Godfrey. You could definitely do that, Paul. You'll notice that one of the details was that there is a phone and a computer. So that's one way of letting them know that you should expect to receive both of these as a new hire. So think about those details. Be overly detailed in the experience. That doesn't mean that they have to, go through and read 17 different pages of information, but rather in the scenes, be as detailed as you can. Okay. Once you've got your assets together, build your CenarioVR experience. And this is what I would suggest. First, begin where all new hires begin. So let me ask you this. I'm going to pause for a second. Where do your new hires begin? Where's the beginning of their journey? What is that? Go ahead and put that in the chat. In the parking lot. Okay. Yep. Front door, reception, at home, meeting with their manager. I mean, so it's different everywhere, right? We still all start differently. Start wherever your new hires begin. It might be starting with an email welcoming them. So maybe your experience opens up on a desktop with the email that pops up and says, "Hey, welcome to XYZ company. We're so glad you're here. Click here to start your experience." So just think about that. Where all new hires begin, that's where your VR experience should begin. Make the idea of consistent new hire experiences your overall goal, right? So how can we make it so that the person that starts this week and the person that starts next week, no matter what their role is, that they get a consistent new hire experience? And so if you keep that in mind, beginning where new hires begin, keeping a consistent experience, that helps you to build it and keep it simple, but detailed. So again, be overly detailed, but make the experience simple. They shouldn't have to figure out a math problem to answer a question. I mean, unless, it's a math engineer job or something like that. Maybe that is appropriate. I would never go for that job. I was told there'd be no math, but anyways, so keep it simple, but detailed. And then of course, make sure that you leave space for department or team specific onboarding. So in the example that I showed you, I would imagine that after talking with Chaz, that we might go into another experience where we're onboarding about the department. And so some of those things that you normally would have as a conversation, in person, maybe at lunch with the manager or, with the team, maybe you could build some of that into this experience so that then when you actually do have that Zoom meeting, you guys get together, you can answer questions and be prepared, right? So you're a little further along in the conversation, especially when you need to explain things like hierarchy within an organization, or if you're a matrix organization, CenarioVR may help you mitigate that conversation because that can be challenging. Okay. So thinking about the example that you saw, right? What would you add to it? What would you add to the example that you saw? keeping in mind, we want to keep it blended, right? So it's not, the reason I keep saying that is because a VR experience is not the beginning and end of onboarding. It is an essential, engaging, immersive part of it. So what would you add to it? Oh, Jim, I love it. Mission, vision, and values. Absolutely. Calendar links to schedule short meetings with different team members. Fantastic. An experience recorded with somebody who's working remotely. I like it. So then you're giving both sides. Absolutely. Message from the CEO. That's a thing, man. The CEO experience is important to people. Very good. Anything else that you might add? Resources on where to find online documents, maybe an overview of the intranet, where the canteen is. Yeah. Oh, Easter eggs. Oh, I love that idea. Clicking on a drawer and revealing someone's snack drawer. That's very fun. What would be in your snack drawer, Stephanie? Career ladder opportunities in progress. Very good. Yeah. Very good. Good things that you're thinking about. Keeping it blended, right? So adding in more pieces that are not necessarily VR, but that complement it really well. Now, I know that someone's going to ask me this question, and I'm waiting for it. So is anybody going to ask me about tracking? Like, how do we mark that they've completed it? Whenever you're ready, you can ask me that question. Yes, Denise says, yes, tracking. How do we mark if they've completed it? Thanks so much for asking, Paul. I'm so glad. Here's the thing. There's a couple of things that you can do. One, we can embed this in your LMS, right? So if your LMS can take a link, an external link, boom, you're done. It's in there. If there's some XAPI capabilities with this, right? So we can make sure that they do get credit for it. But I will say that while, yes, we can mark it complete, it is most important that the whole onboarding experience is marked complete, right? So maybe you create a blended learning solution within your LMS that includes those other pieces we just talked about and this. So it's just one part of that whole experience. Very cool. All right. Any other questions? I'll pause and take some more questions. Use CenarioVR. They're not published as SCORM. It's published as a link. In fact, let me show you. I'm happy to show you this. Hold, please. Zoom is slowing everything down. So we go in here and we click on publish. And so we can publish this scenario. Oh, it is SCORM. I'm sorry. I was thinking HTML5. We can do HTML5. We can do XAPI. We can do SCORM. CMI. If you're using an external LRS, you can pull it in this way as well. Lots of flexibility there. Thank you, Stephanie. I was thinking HTML. I was not. Yeah. Anyways. How easy is it to learn to do this? So, Babs, let me ask you a question. Can you build in Storyline? Oh, I'm probably not supposed to say that word, but nevertheless, if you can build.
Eddie, you're fired. I'm
sorry, I'm fired. If you can understand triggers, states, you can build this. I would even say if you can build a PowerPoint slide and you understand adding functionality, you can do that here. It's to say it's easy, I think, is one of the most understated things. Yeah, very easy. Let's see. CenarioVR can publish. Yes, thank you. Technical issue. 360 for some, especially if you're in a headset rather than online. Adrian's question about why you wouldn't use 360 video versus 360 images. It comes down to, what are you taking a video of? And is it going to impact the scene in a negative way? So it really depends on the answers to those questions. What is it that you're trying to take a video of? So for example, here, if we're taking a video of this reception area and there were people walking by, right, then they're going to walk by on a loop, whatever the video is that's on a loop, and it could become distracting. So it's really just a matter of case by case, what is the best thing to do? What's the best way to publish for viewing an Oculus Quest? I don't know if I know that answer as far as the best way.
I can half answer this.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not a CenarioVR expert, but I believe that we actually have a CenarioVR app in the Oculus Quest app store, or whatever that is called. Oh, John Blackman just gave a smiley face. John, you could just answer this. But anyway, yes, I think if you publish to CVR, you can access it in the app on the Oculus Quest. So it's very easy, very user-friendly if you know anything about VR, which I've just revealed that I apparently don't.
You know more than you think. Yeah. Good. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Well, that's not intimidating at all that John Blackman's on the call. So that's cool.
You know, there was one question about how do we learn how to use CenarioVR?
There was. Well,
and that's a really great question. I will say we have a free trial, and then I'll also let Betty give her answer to that question.
That's a wonderful question. There is a free trial that you should go out there and take advantage of for sure. But as I mentioned, I've been in learning for a long time, and I am a facilitator. And so I offer CenarioVR, no coding required classes. So this is the shameless plug. If you'd like to learn more how to work through all the different kinks and pieces of CenarioVR, the next session is April 5th and 7th, both days from 6 to 9. It's considered an intensive. And we, basically you walk away with multiple experiences that you can then take and turn over. And in fact, if you decide to sign up for the class, I'll even give you the one that you just got a chance to see as a template, the new hire onboarding. And right now there's $100 off with the promo code BOOM, because why wouldn't the promo code be BOOM? And you can sign up at ifuaskbetty.com/classes. So I actually teach this class with my buddy Destry Hildenbrand. Some of you may know him. He's an AR VR guy. We do a lot of fun stuff together, including this. So, all right. Any other questions, thoughts, feelings, even emotional outbursts? I'll take them all.
I mean, I'm full of emotional outbursts if we really want that, but I don't think we want anyone to sit through that. Derek says I hopped on late. Who's the main contact to follow up with? Derek, if you are interested in a demo, I will have someone reach out to you after the webinar. And there's also the free trial link that I put in the chat as well. That's a great option. JJ says no emotional outbursts. All right, just you, JJ.
I mean, everyone gets their own opinion, I guess.
Yeah.
Paul says gadzooks, and I like that one. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you very much for having me. And hopefully this gave you at least one good idea to move forward with onboarding in your hybrid workplace. So thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you so much, Betty, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for attending.